just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to another episode of Hack City. I'm Joe DeLeone, joined by my former teammate, former roommate from the University of Rhode Island, Mr. Sean Anderson. Another day, another episode of why Sean is a bad friend. So last night, Sean ruined my night last night. I'm just going to get right to it. Sean ruined my last night. I had a decent night last night, and Sean drunkenly calls me, and I didn't pick up.
I was checking in. I was checking in on my pal. That's what friends do.
Yeah. No. And I was at dinner with my girlfriend's parents. Texting him back. I'm like, hey, I'll call you in like an hour. I call him back. He's in an Uber. And instead of having a back and forth conversation with me, as I'm trying to talk to him, he starts airing me out to this Uber driver that he's in the car with. And the whole time I'm like trying to talk to him. I'm trying to talk to Sean. I'm trying to there was one funny point that I wanted to bring up just a mental thought that I had from dinner based on a drink that I ordered. And I was thinking something about it. I had ordered a tequila soda. I was just asking Sean, I'm like, do you think that was a bad idea? Is that like a non-manly drink to order at dinner with your girlfriend's parents? But the problem here that I have, Sean, is that you're airing my business out to this random bozo Uber driver who starts shit-talking me with me on speakerphone, which you didn't tell me that I was on speakerphone. So again, here we are, another edition of Sean's a bad friend, Sean's a bad person, and I think that the jury would agree with me here that you're in the wrong for the way that you handled yourself.
Okay, here's a rebuttal. First of all, we both watched Seinfeld a good amount, correct? You did a Jerry salad bit where you ordered a salad, you should have ordered a steak. Or you at least opened the premise of it possibly being in that situation.
Yeah, which was a normal back and forth conversation that I wanted to have with you. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. But for some reason, there was this third party added to the conversation that then started to talk shit about me in the conversation.
He wasn't trash talking you until you started getting hostile.
Yes, he was.
No, he was giving his thoughts.
Hostile at you. Why was this guy associated with our conversation? I was getting hostile at you.
You didn't like the answer that either of us gave. It was just a question. Hey, do you think this drink, what do you think the optics are on the tequila soda at the dinner with the family? Eileen, okay, maybe if you want to you flex your wine knowledge, why don't you get a glass of wine? Unless it was too expensive. If it was going to be,
wait, you don't order a bottle of wine at a dinner that you're not paying
okay.
for.
I understand. That's why I said a glass. But regardless, I didn't know if you floated out. Hey, you want to do wine? I know wine. Look at me. I'm Joe DeLeone.
It was a Japanese place. We weren't going to do wine.
Gotcha. You don't want to do sake?
I should have done sake. I thought about that afterwards.
Sake can also be. If you enjoy it, if you really enjoy it, cool. But you could also look pretentious drinking sake. You can look pretentious as hell. We should have gotten like a Sapporo or a Kirin Ichiban. Great beers.
Yeah. And again,
a tequila soda at a Japanese restaurant, Joe? This is how the conversation went. And now I'm getting new details. And when I'm in the back of the Uber driver, at this instance, I had a very friendly gentleman driving me home. And we just were discussing. I'm like, just guys being dudes in the car. Hey, what do you think about this? Would you do this? And he's a father, so he has some perspective. And then he gave some perspective, and you just didn't like the answer, and that's all that happened.
No, but I wasn't responding to him. I was responding to you. I was like, okay, and I was trying to have a conversation with you, and then for some reason, you kept bringing this guy back into the conversation when I was calling
you were being hurtful.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
Yes,
to him.
You did. You were.
I didn't. No. I didn't say anything to him. You were like, "Oh, I got to go get my food." I hung up, and then you proceeded to text me the things he was saying about me. That was when I got mad. That was when you called me back, and I was like, "There's no way that this guy actually said it." He then repeated it, and then I hung up. I shouted, and then I hung up the phone. That was when you. I think you
put his credibility into question.
I didn't put any. Then why would he say
forget that guy about you?
I don't know. That's what I don't understand.
Because you were questioning his credibility.
Nothing was said by me. I didn't.
The world is tough.
But
he's
that
not
didn't
happen.
You don't understand how mad that made me. You don't understand how absolutely mad that made me. Because I didn't question anything. I was questioning your credibility. And the problem was that you were on speakerphone, and then I was trying to have a conversation with you. And this guy, for some reason, thought that he was a part of this conversation. When I called you to have a conversation, you were a bad friend.
I brought him into it just for some outside consulting. And if you want to be mad about it,
no,
I will
did
bring
it
it
as
up again.
A joke. You did it as a joke.
Regardless.
You brought him into the conversation
First
as
of all,
a joke. You didn't care what he
jerk
had to
store,
say.
I did care. Also, I hate to bring this up again, but you still have the worst airing out of all time.
What are you talking about?
There's nothing that I've seen so far from myself that even comes close to you airing me out. You aired me out in such a foul way that I'll never... know what? You told your girlfriend that I pooped my pants in the dining hall in college. That's what you did, and that's not something that you share with the girlfriend. Oh, who also is my roommate at the time upstairs. Oh, and you guys are just chuckling about Sean pooping his pants in the dining hall and had to miss class. That is an airing out. That is airing out. And if you're,
I'm not telling that to a stranger. I'm not
you
telling
basically
that
are to me, and you know that. You know that breaks a code and goes over a line.
But Sean, there was also in college.
Yes,
there was also in college, and I
with
have
higher
since
stakes
established. But I've still since realized that what is more socially acceptable, and I probably wouldn't do that to you now.
That is much worse than a drink order opinion.
It was less about that, though. I'm not saying that you were airing me out for what I was asking. My point here is that I miss the days when I could just call you and you and I could have a professional, a casual back and forth about life-related things or career-related things like we used to. But no, instead that I'm calling you and you're struggling to put sentences together, so then you have to rely on your Uber driver to then have the conversation.
Is that how you perceived it? Because now you're telling a new story here. I remember being very lucid about this conversation. I remember the way you approached it, and you hung up out of rage because you didn't like the answer that you got. And by the way, you can always call me about that.
No. I didn't hang up out of rage because I didn't like the answer that I got. I hung up out of rage because the guy was shit talking me over my choice, my drink choice. That was what happened.
You feel like that was unjust?
Because I ordered.
You felt like that was unjust?
No, but I don't know this guy. Who does this guy think he is that he's calling me soft for ordering? That was what happened.
He just gave his thoughts that I asked for. I asked for his thoughts.
No.
Forget about it.
But then why did he direct it?
We're just talking as the boys. That's what he said. We're just talking as the boys. That was his quote. We're just talking as the boys.
That's not how that's not how it went down, though. That's not at all how that went down. He's not my boy. I don't know this guy, and he's shit talking me. And you brought him into the conversation. It was look. I'm ending it with this, and we're doing a Missouri Valley Football Conference preview today. That is good. Like top 5 weirdest, strangest interactions that you ever put me through. One of the worst interactions that you've ever put me through. Getting aired out by a Uber driver for a car that I am not even in. That's nothing is going to top that.
I got you. Okay. You know what? That's fair. That's very fair.
You're a bad person. All right. Today we've got Missouri Valley Football Conference preview. We're going to be talking about, will South Dakota State repeat as national champions? The surprise answer is probably. Not going to be very shocking for us to be diving into that. We're also going to be talking about what does North Dakota State do, all that good stuff. And then we also have at the end of the show, we have from a listener who sent us a pronunciation video to help us out. We received it a couple weeks ago. We forgot to do it last show. We're going to do it on today's show. Sean, I want to kick us off here talking about the Missouri Valley Football Conference, going through the standings from last year, the top teams that were amongst the ones that made the playoffs, and then also were in the top of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. South Dakota State was 14-1. Their one loss coming to Iowa. North Dakota State 12-3. They made it all the way to the national championship game and lost to South Dakota State. Youngstown State 7-4. North Dakota 7-5, and then Northern Iowa 6-5. These are the top teams coming back this year. Now, one thing, Sean, for me, first of all, it felt like the conference itself was very top-heavy. And I think more than ever next year, it is going to be even more top heavy because a lot of these teams at the back end aren't really bringing a whole lot back. But what is happening is that South Dakota State is bringing back everybody. They are bringing back most of their offensive line. They're bringing back their backup tight end and Zach Hines. They're bringing back Isaiah Davis, Mark Gronowski, a lot of key players on defense. The Yankee twins are coming back. There is so much returning. It is unprecedented to have this many upperclassmen because of the COVID eligibility that they are returning to compete in the FCS landscape. I don't think it's a stretch to say, despite them losing their head coach, that they're not going to be back in the national championship this upcoming year, considering that they didn't lose anything.
Yeah, that's valid. That's valid. Remember when Sam Houston State won it? We're like, wow, this is a really good team. They're really built that way. And we saw how many players on that team that were impact starters graduated. And you looked at the team the next year like, oh, they're still very good, but that is not a championship team. To be able to have, and college football is so rare, right? Because there's no 8-year contracts. There's no 10-year contracts like in professional sports. So the constant rotating cast, which I think is why a lot of people stay invested because, oh, here's a new player. This is all fun. If you can have great success in a 4-year run, that's as happy as a college sports fan should be. And South Dakota State, you're in the thick of it. Right now is as happy as you should be because the season's going to come. Then eventually, the bad stuff is going to happen. But right now, you're in a awesome driver's seat, not only in your conference, but in all of college football in the FCS. Just everyone knows your top dog, and you proved it last year. So enjoy that. I don't know how they stay so talented, though. How do you stay that talented?
Well, it's the unprecedented nature of what I was talking about earlier, where they don't lose anyone. And it's not like they're a bunch of sophomores. These are like 6th-year guys that decided that they wanted to come back because they still are holding on to that COVID eligibility. More often than not, when you have these level of athletes, they're going to the transfer portal.
Where are
the
transfers?
The NFL draft.
Where's that happen? It should have happened.
No one left. No one left. And I think that just the question mark, Sean, is just what does their new head coach do taking over this program? Is there going to be a drop-off? And I think you'd have to really mess up to have a drop-off from what they did last year.
Yeah, and you don't just get college athletes to buy in like that anymore. So however you were able to do it, however, when the baton was passed, everyone was still pretty convinced, hey, I'm going to stick around here for another year, go for it again, even though maybe I have opportunities, maybe I can get more time, maybe I can go to a different conference, a different level, whatever. To get them to come back under a new coach, that must have been one hell of an exit speech and saying, hey, love you guys, give this new guy your respect, all that stuff. But nobody left? That doesn't work like that.
Well, Tucker Kraft did, and a couple other guys on their defensive line left. But
Tucker Kraft is going to go make millions.
Isaiah Davis. Yeah, he's going to be a highly drafted kid in this year's class.
I'm not. Yeah, I would never say you really left if you're going to be a draft pick in the NFL. You didn't leave. You got a job.
The one thing that is a little interesting is that they don't currently have an FBS team scheduled. They do play Montana State in week 2, or is this technically week 3? No, I think it's week 2. For some reason, that game is identified as the Beef Bowl. I don't know who picked that name. I don't know if they're maybe going to add an FBS opponent. Because they only have 11 games right now. So there's a possibility that they do add an FBS opponent. That's going to help them if they're going to go undefeated. That's really going to help them. And they're at home against North Dakota State this year, which is even more significant. So North Dakota State, on the other hand, Sean, I think they're losing a lot. They're losing Noah Grindorf, who is their top tight end. They're losing Cody Mock, who is going to be a highly drafted offensive lineman this year. Hunter Lupke, they're very talented and athletic fullback who was the best player in their offense. And then Spencer Wague, who was their best defensive player, who was an All-American, is also gone. So across the board, we're losing all of these dudes on this roster for North Dakota State. The main thing that they're hanging on to is that you've got a quarterback in Cam Miller who started a lot of games, that has a lot of experience. And I asked myself the question is of what does Cam Miller do this season when he has to be the guy, when everything is going to be reliant on what can he do? And I'm still yet to see him take that step forward and be willing to handle the pressure that is asked of him being North Dakota State's starting quarterback.
Yeah, North Dakota State, weird schedule this year, starting with Eastern Washington, Maine, Central Arkansas, South Dakota. Those 4 games, that gives Cam Miller.
Who's their FBS team?
Dude, I'm not seeing one. Yeah.
Why are none of these teams
Eastern Washington,
FBS teams?
Maine, Central Arkansas, South Dakota, Missouri State, North Dakota, Western Illinois, Murray State, South Dakota State, Southern Illinois, Northern Iowa.
Huh.
That's not for what we just said about South Dakota State's schedule. North Dakota State has a pretty similar schedule. They could end up with 1 loss versus South Dakota State, or they could be undefeated going into the postseason. November 4th is going to be a huge game. It's going to be huge between the two. I know we're so far out to even be talking about that. That's going to be the biggest game of the year. But that first month with those teams, it gives enough. What is it? I guess difference. That's a poor word, but for Cam Miller to see a lot of different defenses, to see a lot of different schemes, and to see if in that first month that they can get their scheme rolling at North Dakota State with him, that's going to be important, because then you go through the big stretch where the games really start mattering. Obviously, they're not going to start 0-4, but if you're sitting there at 2-2, you're hoping you're coming out of that 2-2 on a positive side with Cam Miller, where you're comfortable and confident with him going out there in week 5, 6, and 7.
Before we continue on with this video, I just want to tell you folks about an exciting new partnership that we have with this channel with Underdog Fantasy. Ever since I joined, I've been having so much fun. There are so many different exciting games that make watching games during the offseason more exciting. I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but it has made it way more entertaining since I found Underdog Fantasy. And my favorite game to play so far, which I think you should try out, is Pick'em. It is so easy to play. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your Pick'em slip, get every pick right, and take home some cold, hard cash. Use code HACK, H-A-C-K, HACK, like the name of this channel. Use code HACK to get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog. Go sign up. You won't regret it. You're going to have a blast. Check out Underdog Fantasy. I also want to tell you folks about our other recurring sponsor that we have on this channel, that being BetOnline, betonline.ag, which is all the updated odds, news, and anything for sports betting. It's my go-to source for when I want to be betting specifically on games. I love betting on college basketball or the NBA. Especially, again, during the offseason, always looking for more fun ways to be focused in on some of these other sports. It's betonline.ag and use promo code BELIEVE50. It's promo code BELIEVE50 to get 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. My only thing with Cam Miller, Sean, is that he's one of those guys who does fine against bad opponents. But every time last year, and especially in the playoffs, especially against South Dakota State, he did not show up to play. And when teams effectively schemed against their run game, which is what we saw in the national championship game, they completely neutralized their run game. Incarnate Word was incapable of doing that, and that was why they won that game. When all the pressure is put on Cam, he typically struggles. And it's not like he has a couple of rough throws. I forget what his completion percentage was against Incarnate Word. It was really quite terrible. I think that Cam has everything.
He might have been like 2 for 15 or whatever it was. It was a crazy game like where, and you know what? If it's not, it is his fault that's his completion percentage, but also with the offense that he runs, a lot of people are going to cut him slack. At the beginning of this conversation, I was ready to cut him slack. It was like, oh, you can lean on the run game more. You can rely on that. How do you think he's going to develop? Doesn't matter. You're a quarterback. It's still going to be balanced. It's still going to be balanced in some facet.
Yes, but at the same time, like Trey Lance wasn't just running the ball every single play. You know,
Exactly.
Trey showed us a lot. And I think that with Cam, he's got all the traits. You know, this isn't a kid like a lot of times we'll have at the FCS level, a lot of kids who are good athletes and they play in these running offenses and they're just, you know, they're using their legs and they occasionally have to throw a couple passes and they do a good job of it. But he's got everything, man. Like he's got everything to be a consistent good starter. I just almost in a way lacks confidence. And I think that maybe he needs to just have a couple good games to build off of the momentum.
Yeah, he doesn't have that air of command that you're saying, okay, that's everybody huddle up. We're listening to me. It's, oh, hey, everybody, let's go run our offense, and then we'll see how it goes this drive. It does not feel like he has true control of the game when he's taking the snaps.
Now, Sean, if we're looking at the rest of these teams, not a very exciting group that we have after North Dakota State and South Dakota State. Right after them was Youngstown, who was at 7-4 last season. They did better, I think, than a lot of us anticipated. They've had a couple of down years. They are losing a very talented running back in DeLeone McLaughlin, who one of the most prolific players in college football history. They do return Mitch Davidson, 12 touchdown, 1 interception guy at the quarterback position. Bryce Oliver, 10 touchdowns, did not go over 1,000 yards receiving this past season. I don't know. I just don't know if I have a lot of faith in Youngstown to be a competitive team, consistently competitive team, because they've been very up and down over the years. Is last year a fluke because they had DeLeone McLaughlin and they were able to rely on him? I don't know if they can be consistent and string together multiple seasons in a row because they just haven't shown me an ability to do so.
Yeah, it's tough, and they're really going to struggle against Ohio State without that big offensive player. But then again, Murderers Row. Valparaiso, Ohio State, Robert Morris. So those first 3 games, Youngstown State.
One of these is not like the other.
I know you'll be able to dig out of that hole afterwards. God dang. Regardless, Youngstown State's always been. They've always seemed. What's the bell curve? You know what I'm with all the percentiles. They've always felt to me like bottom of the bell curve. That's always at the bottom. You got the back quartile, the front quartile, and then the winners at the end of the bell curve. They've always been in that front part of the bell curve to me, where you're sitting here, oh, that's a respectable program, but never, wow, really look out for Youngstown State this year. And McLaughlin was fantastic. And they've had players that on film, you're like, wow, that guy's pretty good, but it's never, wow, that guy's going to lead them to a national championship, or wow, that guy's going to be the guy that takes them to beat North Dakota State. It's not like with Eastern Washington a couple times you see, oh, Eric Berrier might be able to really challenge some of these guys. Youngstown State is just, hey, we play really good football and we have a cool mascot and we're going to be pretty good and we're going to win some games. So not thrilled about Youngstown State. I don't think people should be, but they're fun.
Penguin, a good mascot.
A pretty good one. I like the hat. I think it's good. It's solid. It's unique.
It's not threatening.
That's
it's not. I'm not
Dude,
scared of.
I saw
penguin.
a video of a great white shark fully out of the water today, just jumping and getting like a fake dummy seal. Why isn't there sharks? Why isn't every team a shark? It's the scariest shit I've ever seen, Joe.
And the LIU's a shark, and their shark is really stupid looking. It's not scary looking.
I'm not scared of the
It's also like the baby blue teal look, like that's just, and the yellow.
What's the hockey sharks? The hockey team sharks. San Jose Sharks.
It's a badass logo.
It's okay, but you still got the teal. If I'm going with the shark, I want like a dark navy gray shark, and then the white shark of the great white shark belly. Or give me like a bull shark, just stupid, flat-faced bull shark with tiny eyes that just looking right through you into your soul as a killing machine.
Well, Sean Anderson University can be the Sharks. North Dakota last year did better, I think, than many people expected with some of the roster turnover that they had. Tommy Schuster, their quarterback, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I get, like, North Dakota's kind of similar to Youngstown State, where it's just like, they're a quality team, and I don't know if they're really going to do a dent.
They should be better, and we both know that.
There's such a drop-off in this conference, I feel like. It's just all these, like, middling teams. I don't have a lot of, like, competitive, dominant teams, and I know Missouri Valley Football Conference fans are going to get pissed off by us saying that, but there's just not a lot of evidence for me to point to and say like, hey, look out for everybody in the middle. These teams could be on the come up. There's not a lot of that.
They have had good running backs in the past. They've had good offensive players in the past, a couple good defensive players in the past. They should have been better. I wrote this in the doc because I feel this with my soul. North Dakota last year had a -1 turnover margin. You know what that means? That means purgatory. That means forever you're going to be at +1, 0, or -1. I'd rather see my team last season if I'm going into a previous season, into the next one, I'd rather see them with a -14 turnover margin, because at least that's something I know that we need to address and fix. -1 on turnovers is a terrible place to be, because you can't at least say, hey man, we just got to keep the ball, fellas. We got to work on fumbling. We got to work on our reads as the quarterbacks, and we got to work on our defense, forces and fumbles. -1 sucks to see, because how much better are you going to get? Are you going to go from -1 to +10, Joe? Unlikely. It's unlikely.
Unlikely. Again, they do usually have some pretty talented running backs. So again, maybe there's a guy waiting in the wings. And then speaking of purgatory, UNI seems like they're always in purgatory. They've been kind of sitting around the 6-5 mark. They're always the hard-nosed team that puts up a fight and causes problems for everyone that they play. And they've got a little bit of...
I think you called them a cement truck or a cement mixer. That's what it's like going up against them.
That's what it's like going up against them. Just big, hard-nosed, mean people that just love to hit. Great athletes. I am
of the Missouri
always
Valley.
wary of UNI.
They're the Montana.
Yeah. I think they're better than Montana.
I'm talking about in the recruits, the coal miners that have 4 children, and they're just going out there to play linebacker for fun.
Sure. But the thing with UNI is I have high expectations for them next year. I think out of any of these teams, if somebody's going to finish in third, it's going to be Northern Iowa. They are returning Theo Day as their starting quarterback, who I don't think gets enough attention for how good of an FCS quarterback he is. He is one of the best quarterbacks that just does not get any love at all. I wouldn't be shocked if this isn't a kid who doesn't hop in the portal and doesn't move up and go to a bigger program. He is that good of a football player. Just having him alone, though, like that's what you need. Good quarterback play. Give me good quarterback play, and you can win a conference. They are going to be fighting in. I honestly think that they could pick off South Dakota State or North Dakota State. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if at 1 week we're just like, oh my God, they did it. They actually did it.
How much coffee did you have today, brother?
But they need to finish out and win out the rest of their schedule. You know, they can't dilly-dally and lose to these teams that they are supposed to beat.
Yeah, Northern Iowa is interesting to me because they seem so traditionalist with their style of play. Last year, their receiving leader was listed as a running back, which shows to me evolution and how you would win games and use your talented players to help your team and benefit. It's not what I thought it was. Hey, you came in to be a running back. You're always going to be a running back, and that's how we're going to use you, and you're going to run inside zone until you graduate. And to see that, and maybe it's just a clerical error. Maybe that's just what it is. Regardless, if I'm seeing that, I'm at least hopeful, because that means they have an offensive coordinator and an offense that's creative enough to use their talented players in space to design plays that they know are going to work. If you can go into a game and say, hey, we got 5 plays, and if each of these situations happen, then I have a play for it. In these 5 instances, they're going to be bang plays. Deal. Take it. And if you have that, that's valuable, because everybody runs inside zone. Everybody runs a mesh route. Everybody knows how to run a quick slant. But if you are in a situation where it's, hey, if we're in plus territory, if it's the 40-yard line and we're in like a 3rd and medium, this is the play, because they're going to pressure, and that's what they tended to do. And if we can do that, okay, deep corner, boom, touchdown, everyone looks sweet, everyone celebrates. Something like that inspires hope for fans. So at least seeing that gives me hope for you and I.
Sean, let's get to the last thing here. We, a couple weeks ago, got a pronunciation from a Montana State fan, Dan, my man, who has been a longtime listener of the show. And he sent us this wonderful video, so we decided that we would like to play it. So let's take a listen.
Hey Joe, hey Sean. Thank you for your long-time coverage of the FCS. It's been fantastic. You guys are great personalities. The only thing that's been subpar is your coverage of the names of a few Montana State players.
True.
Here to help you out. No more tweets, no more phonetics. Just a simple video and audio to help you pronounce some of these.
I want more of these.
Incredibly easy names. We got Tommy Malott. No emphasis on anything. Not Mellet, not Mullet. Just like the baseball player Mel Ott.
What baseball player?
I thought he was a hockey player.
Malott. Tommy Malott.
Who am I thinking of?
Then after that, Isaiah Fonse. Not even on the team anymore, but still important. No N in there. It's just
Fonse.
What do you mean no N? You just said that.
Like butter. It comes out. Isaiah Fonse. Seriously though, thank you so much for your coverage. I hope that this, works its way into your Bobcat hater brain, Joe. And
I'm not a hot Bobcat hater.
Say about our cats, Sean.
He messages me and goes, "I got a little hungry."
Go Bobcats.
There's a lot to break down there. First of all,
I just don't know what that bit is at the end. I just
he almost called me shit, by the way. He said shit, Sean. And then he pulls out the family-sized barbecue lays and houses them. I've never, ever seen something so unhinged. Could you imagine? Colin Coward asks, "Hey, I need a stat guy for tonight." You're like, "Hey, here's the stats that you need." Just down a gallon of potato salad, right? What do you do? What does he do in that situation?
I kind of like the thought of having a producer who every time you call on him, he's eating.
What, are you one of my hosts? Is that what you're?
Well, no, but I'm just saying that, how funny would that be? You just call on him and he's just happens to always be eating when he's contributing.
Here's what's awesome. He sat with that bag of chips in his lap the entire video. He had to. He's just thinking about his snack or how he's going to sign off the video with his star power, his magnetic star power.
I love that he hesitated a quick sec too before doing it. But the context of this though is that I challenged him on Twitter. I was like, "Hey, can you send us a video of you saying it? I think that would be way more fun." Great. And I would like that. When we mispronounce, I want people to send us goofy videos like this. This made my day, and I sent it to Sean, and it's so goddamn funny.
I would love the mispronunciation videos. I want more. I want all of them. How do we want to construct this? Because do we want Dan, my man, to be the only one that gets to house the big bag of chips? Does everyone have to be original?
Yeah, no. I want an added bit at the end,
like the
and
bits.
if it's
everyone
someone
get creative,
if you're chugging like a cup of Greek yogurt or something like that. I support that. Or I'm trying to think what something would be really weird to consume.
SpaghettiOs. He's just using the can opener while he's filming himself and just raw dogs them cold.
I want so many more of these. And also, by the way, if I get somebody who sends in an Isaiah Davis pronunciation, I'm going to be pissed off. That's not what I like a Mark Gronowski one. Am I pronouncing that right? I have actually no idea.
I've heard people pronounce it wrong, more wrong than we are.
The
Gronkowski takes a snap.
Comment. Yeah, the ESPN bozos were doing that.
Bozos.
All right, at Joe DeLeone, at Citizen Radio, at Dan My Man. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll be back with more. We want those more pronunciation videos.